Hi, everybody. I'm back to read again in BFG to find out what happens next in chapters 6. I think we're on chapter 6 or 7 now. The Marvelous Ears. Back in a cave, the big friendly giant sat Sophie down once again at an enormous table. Is you quite snugly there in your nightie? He asked. You isn't frigidly cold? I'm fine, Sophie said. I cannot help thinking, said the BFG, about your poor mother and father. By now they must be jipping and scumping all over the house, shouting, Hello, hello, where is Sophie gone? I don't have a mother and father, Sophie said. They both died when I was a baby. Oh, you poor little scrumpet, cried BFG. Is you not missing them very badly? Not really, said Sophie, because I never knew them. You is making me sad, said the BFG, rubbing his eyes. Don't be sad, said Sophie. No one is going to be worrying too much about me. That place you took me from was the village orphanage. We are all orphans in there. You is an orphan? Yes. How many is there in there? 10 of us, said Sophie, all little girls. Was you happy there? The BFG asked. I hated it, Sophie said. The woman who ran it is called Mrs. Clonkers, and if she caught you breaking any of the rules, like getting out of bed at night, or not folding up your clothes, you got punished. How is you getting punished? She locked us in a dark cellar for a day and a night without anything to eat or drink. That rotten old Rhoda Rasper, cried the BFG. It was horrible, said Sophie. We used to dread it. There were rats down there. We could hear them creeping about. That filthy old Fizzwiggler, shouted the BFG. That is the horridest thing is ever hearing for years. You is making me sadder than ever. All at once, a huge tear that would have filled the bucket rolled down to one of BFG's cheeks and fell with a splash on the floor. It made quite a puddle. Sophie watched with astonishment. What a strange and moody creature this is, she thought. One moment he's telling me that my head is full of squash flies, and the next moment his heart is melting for me because Mrs. Clonkers locked us in the cellar. The thing that worries me, Sophie said, is having to stay in this dreadful place for the rest of my life. The orphanage was pretty awful, but I wouldn't have been there forever, would I? All is my fault, said the BFG. I is the one who kid-snatched you. Yet another enormous tear welled from his eye and splashed on the floor. Now I come to think of it, I won't actually be here all that long, Sophie said. I is afraid you will, said the BFG. No, I won't, said Sophie. Those brutes out there are bound to catch me sooner or later and have me for tea. I is never letting that happen, the BFG said. For a few moments, the cave was silent. Then Sophie said, May I ask you a question? The BFG wiped the tears from his eyes with the back of his hand and gave Sophie a long, thoughtful stare. Excuse me, sorry guys. Shoot away, he said. Would you please tell me what you were doing in our village last night? Why were you poking that long trumpet thing into the Cruchy children's bedroom and then blowing through it? Aha! Cried the BFG, sitting up suddenly in his chair. Now is getting nosier than a Parker. And that suitcase you were carrying, said Sophie. What on earth is that all about? The BFG stared suspiciously at the small girl sitting cross-legged at the table. You was asking me to tell you whoopsie big secrets, he said, secrets that nobody is ever hearing before. I won't tell a soul, Sophie said. I swear it. How could I anyway? I am stuck here for the rest of my life. You could be telling other giants. No, I couldn't, said Sophie. You told me they would eat me up the moment they saw me. And so they would, said the BFG. You is a human being, and human beings is like straw bunkles and cream to those giants. If they are going to eat me the moment they see me, then I wouldn't have time to tell them anything, would I? Sophie said. You wouldn't, said the BFG. Then why did you say that I might? Because I is brimful of buzzburgers, said the BFG said. If you listen to everything I am saying, you will be getting an earache. Please tell me what you are doing in our village, said Sophie. I promise you can trust me. Would you teach me how to make an elephant? Said the BFG asked. What do you mean? Sophie said. I would dearly love to have an elephant to ride on, said the BFG dreamily. I would so much love to have a jumpy big elephant to go riding through the green forest, picking peach fruits off the trees all day long. This is a sizzling hot, muck-frumping country we live in. Nothing grows in it except for snaz cucumbers. I would love to go somewhere else and pick peachy fruits in the early morning from the back of an elephant. Sophie was quite moved by this curious statement. Perhaps one day we will get you an elephant, she said, and peachy fruits as well. Now tell me, what were you doing in our village? If you really wanting to know what I am doing in your village, the BFG said, I is blowing a dream into the bedroom of those children. Blowing a dream? Said Sophie. What do you mean? I is dream-blowing giant, said the BFG said. When all the other giants is galloping off every what way and wits to wallop human beings, I is scuttling away to other places to blow dreams into the bedrooms of sleeping children. Nice dreams, lovely golden dreams, dreams that is giving the dreamers a happy time. Now hang on a minute, said Sophie. Where do you get these dreams? I collect them, the BFG said, waving an arm towards all the rows and rows of bottles on the shelves. I has billions of them. You can't collect a dream, said Sophia. A dream isn't something you can catch a hold of. You is never going to understand about it, the BFG said. That is why I is not wishing to tell you. Oh, please tell me, Sophie said. I will understand. Go on. Tell me how you collect the dreams. Tell me everything. The BFG settled himself comfortably in his chair and crossed his legs. Dreams, he said, is very mysterious things. They is floating around in the air like little wispy things. Wisty misty bubbles. And all the time they is searching for sleeping people. Can you see them? Sophie asked. Never at first. Then how do you catch them if you can't see them? Sophie asked. Aha, said the BFG. Now we is getting on to the dark and dusty secrets. I won't tell a soul. I is trusting you, said the BFG. He closed his eyes and sat quite still for a moment. Well, Sophie waited. A dream, he said, as it goes whiffling through the night air, is making a tiny little buzzing humming noise. But is a little buzzing humming is so silvery soft, it is impossible for a human being to be hearing it. Can you hear it? Sophie asked. The BFG pointed up to his enormous tuck wheel ears, for which he now began to move in and out. He performed this exercise proudly, with a little proud smile on his face. Is you seeing these? He asked. How could I miss them? Sophie said. They maybe is looking a bit preposterous to you, said the BFG, but you must believe me when I say they is extra unusual ears indeed. They is not to be coughed at. I am quite sure they're not, Sophie said. They is allowing me to hear absolutely every single tiddly little thing. You mean you can hear things I can't hear? Sophie said. You is deaf as a dumpling compared to me, cried the BFG. You is hearing only thumping loud noises in those little earwigs of yours, but I am hearing all the secret whisperings of the world. Such as what? Asked Sophie. There's his big ears. In your country, he said, I is hearing footsteps of a ladybird as she goes walking across the leaf. Honestly? Sophie said, beginning to being impressed. What's more, I is hearing those footsteps very loud, the BFG said. When the ladybird is walking across the leaf, I is hearing her feet going clumpity, 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 clump, like giant's footsteps. Good gracious me, Sophie said. What else can you hear? I is hearing little ants chittering to each other as they scuttle around in the soil. You mean you can hear the ants talking? Every single word, said the BFG, although I is not actually understanding their language. Go on, Sophie said. Sometimes, on a very clear night, the BFG said, and if I is swinging my ears in the right direction, and hear he swiveled the giant ears upwards so they were facing the ceiling. If I is swiveling them in the right, then like this, the night is very clear, I sometimes hearing faraway music coming from the stars in the sky. A queer little shiver passed through Sophie's body. She sat very still and quiet, waiting for more. My ears is what told me you was watching me out of your window last night, said the BFG. But I didn't make a sound, Sophie said. I was hearing your heart beating across the road, said the BFG, loud as a drum. Go on, Sophie said, please. I can hear plants and trees. Do they talk? Sophie asked. They is not exactly talking, the BFG said, but they is making noises. For instance, if I come along and I is picking a lovely flower, if I is twisting the stem of the flower till it breaks, the plant is screaming. I can hear it screaming and screaming very clear. You don't mean it, Sophie said. How awful. It is screaming just like you would be screaming if someone was twisting your arm right off. Is that really true? Sophie asked. You think I is figgling you? It is rather hard to believe. Then I am stopping right here, said the BFG sharply. I is not wishing to be called a fibster. Oh no, I am not calling you anything, Sophie cried. I believe you. I do really. Please go on. The BFG gave her a long, hard stare. Sophie looked right back at him, her face open to his. I believe you, she said softly. She had offended him. She could see that. I wouldn't ever be fibbling to you, he said. I know you wouldn't, Sophie said. But you must understand that it isn't easy to believe such amazing things straight away. I understand that, the BFG said. So do please forgive me and go on, she said. He waited a little while longer, then he said, It is the same with the trees as it is with the flowers. If I is chopping an axe into the trunk of a tree, I is hearing a terrible sound coming from inside the heart of the tree. What sort of sound? Sophie asked. A soft moaning sound, the BFG said. It is like the sound of an old man is making when he is dying slowly. He paused. The cave was very silent. Trees is living and growing, just like you and me, he said. They is alive. So is plants. He was sitting very straight in his chair now, his hands clasped tightly together in front of him. His face was bright and his eyes round and bright as two stars. Such wonderful and terrible sounds I is hearing, he said. Some of them you would never wish to be hearing yourself, but some is like glorious music. He seemed almost as transfigured by the excitement of his thoughts. His face was as beautiful as a blaze of emotions. Tell me some more about them, Sophie said quietly. You just ought to be hearing the little miceys talking, he said. Little miceys is always talking to each other, and I is hearing them as loud as my own voice. What do they say? Sophie asked. Only the miceys know that, he said. Spiders is also talking a great deal. You might not be thinking it, but spiders is the most tremendous natterboxes. And when they is spinning their webs, they is singing all the time. They is singing sweeter than a nightingale. Who else do you hear? Sophie asked. One of the biggest chat bags is the caterpillars. Caterpillars, said the BFG. What do they say? They is arguing all the time about who is going to be the prettiest butterfly. That is all they is ever talking about. Is there a dream floating around in here now? Sophie asked. The BFG moved his great ears this way and that, listening intently. He shook his head. There is no dream in here, he said, except in the bottles. I has a special place to go for catching dreams. They is not often coming to Giant Country. How do you catch them? The same way you is catching butterflies, the BFG answered, with a net. He stood up and crossed over the corner of the cave where the pole is leaning against the wall. The pole was about 30 feet long, and there was a net in the end of it. Here is a dream catcher, he said, grasping the pole in one hand. Every morning I is going out and snitching new dreams to put in my bottles. Suddenly he seemed to lose interest in the conversation. I is getting hungry, he said. It is time for eats. All right. We're going to find out what happens when the giant eats next time. Have a good day, everybody.